Hello and welcome to another video here. I'm Chris and this is a Synced Stories video on how to redraw Tintin. Or not in general, but in a very particular case. We're talking about here panel A2 on page 33 of the Castafiore Emerald. Les Bijoux de la Castafiore in French. So what we will be doing today, which we actually should have done already in the previous part, is to do three things. We should fix the hand, we should refine the hand down here, we should add sweat drops around Tintin, and we should actually draw the balloon tail, the balloon pointer also. The reason we didn't do that in the previous video was that we discovered here that the proportions of the face or the head were not perfect, so we took some time to adjust that in the previous video then, and in order to get all the spaces here of the right amount, the right area here, so all these areas have to be nicely proportioned, so that we now, when we sort of, especially here in the middle and to the right, when we add the sweat drops and the balloon tail, that we can actually have the same spaces to the left and to the right of the balloon tail, which sort of is going to split this space into two. And it's also important because the sweat drops on this side here is going to fit into a rather small space here, so we really need to be able to have that as accurately as possible in relation to the original panel published in the Tintin adventure. Okay, so but before we start, just making some announcements as usual here with the comic book album I'm working on right now, which is the 987 degrees centigrade, which is a science fiction action thriller adventure starring Barry Riley. As you can see here, he is the hero and arrogant space captain who is always in trouble and problems and danger, and there's a lot of action and drama and intrigue going on here, with various conspiracies and plans to mess things up. Alright, so that's just a quick announcement. And on the back cover, of course, we have the 8 books projected, so the 987 degrees centigrade is just one of those 8, and all of these 8 then comprise season 1 of Unlimited Danger. So the umbrella name for this series is Unlimited Danger, and we are at the very beginning, the season 1. Alright, so let's get on with our video, doing some drawing. So now we have 3 things that we are going to do, and the first thing we want to do is actually to map out the balloon tail. Where is it going to go? And what we also notice already now is that the space between Tintin's head here and the panel frame is still actually a little is still too big compared to the original. So I'm going to, I think we had the guidelines there. Yep, those were it. So I am going to, I think what we are looking at is more like this. I'm comparing now, I'm having the original artwork on my left monitor, which you cannot see of course, and in the same scale I'm also using 100%, so when I'm looking to the left and then onto the screen, which you also can see, I'm sort of eyeballing that distance. So I think I will have to move this something like 2 pixels. And so I'm going to do that now. Moved right. We take away the old one. V for move tool. And 2, maybe 3 pixels to the right. And you know, we notice also here that the hand still is to the right of the head, so it's sticking out just a little bit. And that's fine. Okay, save it there, and so now let's get on to, well, let's keep Tintin where he is, tail, sketch. So let's go to the red colors, light red, and let's start sketching. So I'm going to take up things to 200% here, and I'm also doing it in the original to my left here, so we always are synchronized. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is on this layer here, I want to go to my guide layer, and I want to use my green color to point to the approximate location of the tail in comparison. So what I'm measuring now is from here to this point here, and I'm eyeballing here where should the origin, if I may say so, where should it originate, the tail? Should it originate from the right hand side or from the left hand side? And the answer is, since he is talking, the angle must be something like that. So he must come from somewhere over here to the very right. But exactly where? That is the question. So what I'm seeing is that the space, if we just I'm just putting one point here. The space here in between these 2 points, we can call this C here, and we have A and B there. Then the distance A to C is approximately, well, it is radically bigger than the distance C to B. But exactly where it goes, I would say, just eyeballing, if we take actually, we would call this A1 here instead. A1. So that point where Professor Calculus's head is intersecting with the lower portion of the lower border of the balloon, A1 or A prime, that distance A1 to C is approximately twice as big as C to B. That means that I actually have to move myself from here to I have to actually, oops, like that. So I'm moving point C to the left. So one of those, and then we have one of those and one of those. Maybe even a little to the right still there. Oh, well, blue, but let's do it green. I had, okay. So we have to reselect the green then. Okay. And then we are going to, so if we say that this is one there, and then this is one here, maybe even a little more. Yeah, maybe even a little more. Green here instead. Let's try that. Something like that. Okay, good. Now what complicates the issue here is that the balloon actually has two parts. So when I measured the C point here, I measured the right, let me just quickly, I can do this maybe like with orange here. So I'm doing it down here. So I was using, this is the start of the balloon tail, and or maybe I can write on here. So what I measured was the start of the balloon tail, And but the problem is that it has a thickness also, right? So that thickness has also to exist somewhere. So it's not really the right tail that we want to identify the position of. It's the very middle inside the tail, the white inside the tail, we can say, in the middle of the white. And if we think like that, then the situation will be a little different. So if I move, then if I look at that white point instead, I would have to say that the proportions are something like 1 to 1.8 or something like that. That means that the white point, which should be the real C then. Let's go back. So I now know that I have to sort of move myself back to the left there in order to be able to get the proportions right. So I move to the left there, and so 1 to 1.8 or something like that. So I'm removing the orange now, just not to confuse us too much. 1 to, okay, so let's say I have 1 there, then I have 1 there, and that could be approximately it. So this then marks the middle of the white. So I'll be doing then the sketch with my red pen, because it's my first sketch. And then it's also a matter of the thickness also of how much white should we have. But of course I have the sort of the answer here on my left monitor, which you cannot see. But if you do have the album, a good idea is to scan in that page on your computer and then look at it in one of the Photoshop or some other paint program, and blow it up to 200% as I'm having here, so you can go along and you can see things more clearly. Maybe you have 2 monitors also, and then you can run the YouTube video on the right monitor, and then you can use your left monitor to view your scanned page, just like I do, and then it really becomes much more interesting, I think, and more useful also for you, because I am enjoying this process and at this end, so to speak. So I hope you can maximize your pleasure also by doing so. Okay, so let's get this angle. Well, just put a lot of F's in here to get the white background, and so we can erase our green. So is this angle good or not? So the thickness of the line weight should be the same as in the balloon border, the balloon. And then and that should be equal basically, but it isn't. There is some variation there too. I see in the but basically, at least on this first sketch layer, we can remove those guys there, and then in a later video we can connect everything. We can remove the black inside there. So now the question is, what should the design be of this tail here? Should we go straight down, or should there be something else happening here? And that is one problem, or one feature, I should say, perhaps, of Auger's balloon tails, is that they are always the same, basically. And that means, well, in 99%, unless it's one of those question mark or exclamation mark balloons, which normally are circular or elliptical. But as far as these ordinary talk kind of dialogue balloons, these always have a sort of like a lightning bolt kind of shape to them. So we're looking at a zigzag kind of shape, which we now are going to try to replicate. And we are 20% red, and but I think actually this C point here, we will have to move this later on, because I already see now that our estimation was off. But let's just continue as if nothing had transpired, and we just happily do our lightning bolts. So what I do here is I'm sort of using kind of like a fold, 90-degree fold, and then this side here I'm working on right now should approximately be 2 times the length of this one. But this first one is actually too long already, so I'm going to move it. So I'm V for move tool, and then I'm just grabbing it and putting it up. And I'm also adjusting a little bit to the right for now. And you see here that this stroke here is very close, and actually it isn't that close in the original, so we have to figure out exactly why that is and fix that. But I think basically one thing is that the amount of up here, the length here should be not very much longer than this. And then we can talk about the angle or the shape here, but something like this, and probably here in the blue anger mark or the anger stroke, it should go a little more up, and perhaps its position should also be, it should originate from the same point approximately, because it's from this mark on his glasses, sort of, it goes out, but the angle on the other stroke here could be a little upward, and also this angle you might be able to fix that later. And when I'm looking at this design now on the original page to the left here, I see that this angle is also more pointing to it's slightly less steep, it's more horizontal. So what I will do is I will actually cut out here a smaller piece, so this should be enough to fit the whole balloon tail, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and I'm going to erase this old one because it's impractical when I want to rotate it. It's harder to get hold of the transform controls. And now I'm just going to rotate it a little bit, like that perhaps, and then of course multiply. Okay. And now we see this, which looks very good, that the point we have reached here, maybe it's actually a few degrees more. The point we have reached here to his glasses, a little dot here, is actually matches perfectly with the length here now. So this length, when this lightning bolt, this balloon tail lightning bolt hits here, then its length is perfect, right? So this length here seems to be pretty good. Actually, I think its length should be a little more there, and then we should move it up, because I think this folding here actually compensates for that. And then we have a little more balloon tail here, and maybe it's a little more narrow there. So I estimate the inside white here in in the balloon tail. Up here in this portion, it's about 2 line thicknesses of the balloon border, not of this, because this red now is too thick here, so I have to shave it off here. But essentially we're looking for 2, but then it gets gradually thinner here. So then in the next section here, it's maybe only well, not 1.5, but it's maybe it's 1.7 or something. Let's say it's something like 1.7, so it's a little, and the 2 lines are parallel all the way in this here. And then comes the third section, where the line thickness, or where the white area is maybe 1.2 line thicknesses, something like that. These are of course just rough estimates. And this point here should end at 70%. Well, could that be correct? Well, if I take the middle point here, if I take the middle point and I count from the nose and straight down, then the point there should be the ending. So he should go, so the balloon tail should go down there. And also note that the balloon tail isn't actually pointing directly to the mouth, it's pointing directly to the beard. So the balloon tail is pointing to here somewhere. And I didn't look at this line now, actually, when I did it. I looked at the original artwork. So maybe it's here. So I have to adjust this a little bit to get the right angle. But we were pretty close in terms of getting the direction right. And then what he does on this side, so this is too far down now. I have to adjust this a little bit. And this is a little too high up. I think. Yeah, I think it's too high up because I made this an angle here up. But if I would have approximated his moustache, I should have done this more straight here. But all these things we will fix later on anyway. So right. So now let's go back to this balloon pointer and let it point to the beard. And of course the recommendation I have, at least, is that we should always try to point the balloon tail to the mouth. But sometimes that isn't possible, but I mean, that should be very seldom that we sort of revert to some other method or some other point. So we shouldn't, I think, we shouldn't point it to the beard. Okay, so the angle here, and we have to remember now that the white thickness here should be less than in the middle segment. And we should clean that up to see how it performs in real life. A little there to see how the angles are coming on. It's not too bad for being a first attempt. Okay, let's make a little on the outside as well, cleaning up. It's so nice. Right. So here we, of course, we see directly that there's something fishy going on with these angles here. So, and well, fishy and fishy, but they should go, so they should approximately be like this. Down here, but even less. I'm going to fix this right now, just to let's get this in here a little bit. And when this happens here, the amount of white here should be following the thickness of segment 2. So this should be thicker than this. Okay, and then we should have the good, okay, and we and if we now adjust up here, and this is more, has a more roundish character to it, and it doesn't overhang as much as this one down here. So here's sort of like more like an arrow, but this is less so. This is almost like a, well, 110 degrees perhaps. But this one is maybe 70 or something. So this is more open, this angle inside here. Right, and this white here also goes out a little more there. It's not so bad. I think the basic length, we could perhaps, I think the effect which he wants is that this last part, if we call this segment 3, segment 2, segment 1 up here, I think that his plan is, as it looks, that these parts of the tail should gradually become longer. So the last one has to, so number 3 has to be longer than number 2, and number 2 has to be longer than number 1. Which means that in order for this to work, I think we just have to make right now. Okay, so now yeah, right. So if we move this part here back just a little bit, so let's lasso it and just move it parallel backwards, and then I think we get the right dimensions. So I'm copying it, I'm pasting it, V for the move tool, and now I'm just dragging it a little back here, and I'm hiding it and showing it just to see what the difference is. But then it becomes too long. Okay, so let's skip that, and I'm going to instead maybe it is pretty good anyway. Well, it's not a okay. So one thing I'm going to do before we do anything else is that I'm going to adjust the angle here a little bit. And then a little more softer here. Or maybe that yeah, this is not okay. So what we'll do instead is that I'm going to drag it back 1 pixel, so that now this area becomes as it is in the original sketch. And then I'm going to use my white pen here to just erase that so we don't, so we get a more proper feel for it. Maybe it should be even one more point there. So let's another V for the move tool and up one more. And I think that's better, even one more perhaps. Yeah. And now I am wondering about whether we should. No, I think what I'm looking at is here. I'm going to take this up to 300%, and I'm going to do the same with my original, and I'm going to inspect these. And I think they are close, but they're not perfect. Okay, so I think I need to move this part backwards, and then is that the, yeah, I think that's the way to do it. There's always a way, but the question is, so if I just move this one here back a little bit, the front, the segment 3 will get a little, will feel longer. A little adjustment compared to, and it is this scale. I mean, if this is, if we use that as the unit or unity, then maybe this one should be 1.1 or 1.2 long. So it's not. So by moving it backward, this point here, this line here, then we can sort of feel us. We can gradually check whether we have hit the right mark or not. So we can ongoing, and this should be pretty straight here down here. This lower part should be actually completely straight, almost. I mean, it's interesting to see here also that it is totally, the whiteness sort of disappears gradually, even in this 300% scale. So there's no blurriness or anything here, and when we blow it up, and that means that in the original drawings, he was using quite a big scale, and exactly what that scale is, I don't know, but according to the videos I've seen when Hergé is drawing Tintin, he seems to be working at A2 format in order to produce the sort of like destination format A4. and that means double scale, so twice as high and twice as wide as the final printed comic book. At least that's what I've seen with my own eyes. I also read statements where people say that he was drawing in like A3, which is only like 50% or something like that, 50 higher, taller panels and 50% wider panels. But this line this precision work here seems to indicate, I think, that he was doing it in A2. All right. Good. So then we have and the interesting thing here also is that the line thickness down here is not as thick as the line thickness up here. Even this is perhaps too much anyway, but the line is thicker up here in the original art than it is at the very tip of the tail, like in segment 3. So okay, so then, but still there is this angle here should still be a little in, and that will make this one seem longer. And the question is if that is alright. I think it actually looks pretty good. Right, so we have come pretty far, and we should go back here to our white. We should take down, as I said, this should be thinner in here in this segment 3 here. And this line here is actually thicker. It's as thick as this other line here, which again is an indication that it's like a metal, it's a fountain pen or a nib, metal nib kind of dip pen that he's using. That's maybe a little thicker here. And this the inside, I have to fix the inside there, right? Okay, so So you see that, so the angle here on this side is much different than the angle here on this side. And then also this should be a rounded outline there, just as this line should be not so pointy. Should be a slight curvature because it's not. However, here it's almost pointy. Okay. Right. And this should bulge out a little more here, up here. And then it should go in a little. Like that. Should be smoother here. Okay, I think that's a good first approximation. And what have we done wrong? Well, one thing we can look at when we're constructing this is how are these lines connected? This line here, where does it go? Does the bottom part of this line line up with the upper part of this red line? Or so how does it go in the original? And the thing is that the bottom part of this segment 2 red line, in the original it goes straight into the middle of this upper, in the segment 1 red line. So it seems that we have aligned this and this line very good. So this seems to work perfectly. However, oh, I see. Okay, however, down here, this is not what is happening. So down here in the original, the line doesn't go, the segment 3 line doesn't continue up into the middle as I have drawn it here. Instead, the lower, the lower outline of the red line down here continues into the upper outline of this red line in segment 2. So how to fix that? It seems as so what we have to do is we have to, I think we have to increase, well, the angles are pretty actually good here, so I don't want to mess it up too much, but so basically we have to do something like this, that it has to, but then here it goes down as well a little bit. So I think basically it is what we want to do is we want to always work on the same scale, right? Right, so yes, it's pretty clear now that. Okay, so back to this one, we have the red brush. We have lifted up this line a little longer. We have a good this intersection here works well, but we should have more straight here. Okay, and then the sort of like the wavy part comes down here, so this is a little wavy. And this goes up a little like that. So here you can see that the sort of the bottom part of this red line sort of continues over into the upper part of this red line in segment 2 here. And now we just have to fix the thickness of the line here, which shouldn't be too thick down here. But still we can. It goes a little back down. Can still make it a little thicker. And we're pretty good with those lines there as well, so this looks very promising. And we're fixing and tricksing and erasing and undoing and all of these things to be able to arrive at something which we can be pretty confident that it's a good estimation of Hergé's work. Hergé is fantastic work. I mean, he's so fantastic. It's okay. So we can fix this up if we want, but for now I think it's pretty good. And but what we'll do now at 100%, or maybe we can go up to 200%, and I'll do the same here with this one. And now we will manually estimate things here. And it turns out that okay, I'm talking about position now. So in terms of position, where is the balloon tail located, and how does it, and yes, I think it is, we have to rotate it a little more. Okay, tail sketch, tail S, rotation, right? We'll just call it tail S there. and then we have R for refined later on. So we will rotate it, and I'll take up my original here also to 300. Yeah, there is a little to be done here. And to see you get my handles. Oh, I shouldn't have. It's so hard to see. Okay, I'm committing and I'm undoing immediately, and then I must hide the under the previous layer that I just copied, so I don't want that to. I don't want to see it, because otherwise I can't measure, I can't estimate if it's good or not here when I'm rotating it. So that seems maybe too much. But it's always hard to really see what the final result is in these older versions of Photoshop, because it doesn't really show the final result until you have committed with a return or enter. So, but we're guessing that this is better. And I think actually I can lift it up 2 points. Two pixels. Yeah. Now what I see here is that we're now too far away from calculus, and we're too close to Tintin. So I'm going to move myself closer, and you can also see this in the C placement there, that we are off. So where do we go? We go, let's see if we can find a place where a good place to measure in terms of the relative distance is also at these points here, because at these points here we can see that Professor Calculus distance is so if we say that this is the distance to Tintin here is 1, then we can say that the distance to the glasses or something, that should be 1.2. So if we have 1 there, and now to this point here, Okay. And maybe also this should be less white in here. It should be, there are a few things here. The line thickness up here should be thinner. And so let's do that as a okay. So maybe we can do, I'll put this up to 400 now, and I'm doing so also on the left here on the original, and this line thickness should be a little thinner. And then this should be a little thicker than the other line, but still, and then it should go more horizontally in here. And this one as well should be more horizontal. Not quite that much, but okay. All right, and maybe it should come down 1 point more there, I think, or not, if not 2. And we still have it pointing to the middle of the beard section here, but I think it can go, it's better there. Okay, at least we are in the neighborhood here, and we, as I said, maybe even there. No, it's more 1.3 here. So if we have one unit here, then we have 1.3. So I think we 1.3 here and 1 here. And also the position of this corner here is good in terms of, it should be here at half of an eye's height, straight in like that, so it should be around here. So that looks good. All right, and but it's the pointiness here that we are going to, so we're doing it at 400 now, and we are going to refine this a little is going to get a little more pointed here. And this outer line also is going to follow that. Okay. We have red, 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 red here. Okay, and this should be straight here. Pretty straight. And the waviness comes here. Well, that, and on the outside. It's like a jet plane or something coming down here in the and there's a slight angle there also. Okay, so maybe we can leave it at that. Okay. I think this is pretty good for as a first approximation here. And now we can do the drops. Let's do the Tintin sweat drops, and we can continue working in 400%. Now that we have the balloon tail sort of set in terms of location. So I think the location is pretty good now. There is some slight difference here in terms of where this point ends in terms of this, but I think it's not too much, and I think also the overall shape here is pretty pretty good in terms of its position and the thickness. I'm doing just a small correction here. But then there's something here that I've actually thought about that I have removed here, but I'm going to add it now. Not because it's great or anything like that, but I'm just to point out that this is a replica, or we're trying to we're not trying to make it better, or we're not trying to make it our style. We're not trying to find faults and remove them. If we find faults, then we keep them anyway. So that's the sort of the project of this video. And once more, I mean, this is just as much an exercise in recreating a Tintin panel as it is in exercising our ability or disability to draw freehand from someone else's work. So it's a sort of like a lesson to look at angles, to look at curves, to look at points, to look at circles and ellipses and all these things, line thickness, line length, and all these sound effects and all. So it's a general drawing practice, just as it is a specific Tintin exercise. And it's also, you can say, it's a Photoshop exercise also, that perhaps you have a new Wacom tablet or a Cintiq or something that you want to get the feel for it, and the feeling is not the same as paper, so there's also that to sort of learn and become better at it. And we can all become better if we exercise more. Okay, good. So now we are doing the... So what I'm going to do now here is balloon tail. I'm going to set balloon tail S here for sketch. And then I'm doing another one here, which I will call balloon tail refined. And I will take that up there and put that there for now. But we're not going to look at it because we are going to do a Tintin sweat here, and it's sweat S for sketch. We don't have to have uppercase here, my bad. Okay, so we're adding these as we are doing them in that. So all the S folders should actually have been stacked on top of each other, and then all the R refine folders should be stacked on top of each other. So that was my original plan. But anyway, so now you understand perhaps how I'm doing it. And then another thing for the future could be here that we actually could write out the number here. So we actually say video or not video 8 but part 8 here. So then we will go back, and the next time perhaps, or the next time again in part 10 or 11, we can quickly identify where we did all that work, and then we can easily go back to, okay, oh yes, I did some mistake in part 2, so let me take a look at that video and see what Chris did wrong, or did right perhaps even. So I think that's a good so sketch. We can write part 8 here also, so this will be our new system here. And as usual, we can take a new white layer from the tail. We already created that before, so we can Tintin sweat particle. Okay, how many do we have? We have 4 in the original. Okay, so then we have sweat at 1, sweat 2, and I'm doing this clockwise now, so I'm starting at 11 o'clock and I'm going approximately to 4 o'clock. Right, so let's start with number 1 then. Multiply. Okay, we have our brush, and we have, and also what I should have done now was to cut out, because these are quite small, so I want to cut out just like a portion here, and that's the one I'm going to use. And now I am duplicating that just 3 times, and then I'm just copying the titles to the new ones. And then I'm removing the old ones up here, so okay, good. So now when I press V, I can see the extent of the sweat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and of course these are now to be, well, we can do this now, these are to be repositioned here. And the third one is at 3 o'clock over here, and the fourth one is at 4 o'clock, something like that. Okay, so we have them in, and maybe we should do one up there first, like that. Okay, let's 11 o'clock, just to be extra. 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. Right. Okay, so now let's do it. The line thickness should be less thick than... Oh, okay, so I'm now painting it where it shouldn't be really, but I'm going to move the... So I'm having a less thick line weight, and this white in here should be barely visible. That is the size approximately, and it should be a little longer though. The shape should be something like that. Okay, so V, and now I'm just... Oh, I messed up here in terms of erasing the... Okay, I'm erasing that. V for the move tool, and then I'm going to position it. Okay, I see I have to multiply also, okay. Position it one balloon border away, so, and then I have to be 3 borders away from that line, and then the sweat drop is pointing to this intersection here with the forehead and the hair. So that looks very good. Maybe one, but maybe the angle should be slightly different. Slightly different should go. Let's see what this gives. Maybe a little more. Okay. And then bring it down. Something like that. Okay. That's one. Number 2, we will have up here, and number 2 as well is going to point to this here. So the sweat drop, the angle of the sweat drop is parallel to the hair, almost. Not quite. So going a little more down here than this way. So it goes, but it's pointing to this point where I am now. So let's draw it, and this sweat drop is actually even closer to the upper, to the balloon border. And well, personally I would never do it like that, but there must be always, in my my book, not in Hergé's book obviously, but in my book, I would never put anything. Well, I could put the background that could intersect would go like into the balloon border, but a like a foreground effect, like sweat drops or anger lines. I would never put them as close um, to the balloon border as this. So, but if you like it, then you can do it. So I'm just saying what I like. And you may have your own taste. Okay. Something like that. And that's too much white there. And so we have to very okay, and then we grab the whole thing and we point it in the right direction, and then we put it very close to the border. This is just a half a balloon border away now. So this one is half of this towards the balloon. So let's see if this angle works. A little more like that. Still a little. Okay. Let's leave it at that. But it should be closer to multiply also. It should be closer to the hair. Something like that. Even more there. Yep. Let's go to number 3. Which isn't really exactly 3 o'clock, but it's like 3:15 perhaps or something. But I think you get the idea. Okay, and this sweat drop is a little bigger. This is a little bigger. There's more white in it. Maybe you're sweating more in the back head. I don't know. Or maybe Tintin does. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the. He's emitting larger sweat drops from the back of his head than from his forehead. Okay. So it's longer, it's wider, it's more white in it, and the line thickness is also somewhat bigger or thicker. So there are a few things to think about. And I think the angle is pretty good. And let's paint with just 20% white now so we don't overdo it. It's difficult this, but okay, we're closing in. closing in. Maybe we can leave it at that and then just make this darker here. And not mess it up too much. Okay. And then we want to V for the move tool, and then we want to make this a little, it should point to the eyebrows. So I guess it should be there somewhere. Maybe there. And it should be a little more up. So I think if my vision isn't too bad, we should have some line here, approximately from the middle of the eyebrows and to 2/3 of the eyebrows in height here, and then that line sort of, so the line goes from up here straight over here, something like that. Okay. And the distance should be two thicknesses of this over here should be this white area. So maybe we can take it in one more. One more, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So now let's go to the fourth one, actually. 4 o'clock. This is more like 4:45 or something, but okay, let's do it. Let's do it. We are there. And this should go up. Upwards. And this one should be smaller than the previous one, so, but still bigger than any of the other two. So it's some intermediary sweat. Nice and round. And then, but it should be a little, you have to get some white in there also. Like that. And the amount of white should be less than in the other, in the one up here. And the thickness, the line thickness should be a little less as well. But it's not entirely easy to do this. But of course, that's why we're doing it, because we want to practice all these things. And it's also nice when we're doing our own comic books, we know approximately what kind of relationship the lines in Tintin, how they should be. For instance, we now know that 4 sweatdrops is a reasonably good number. So if I want to do sweatdrops in let's say Barry Riley, he may have that too, and then I know that 4 is some average number, so I can take 4, or I can use 5, or I can use 3 perhaps if I. So you get it's like a grammar book. I usually say that Tintin shows us like the grammar of comics. What could be done, how to make effects, for instance, how to make balloons, how to make, and then if we like it, we can use it straight off in some similar design, and if we don't like it, we can do something else. But at least we have something that has worked for generations. So it's a very, very good starting point. If we are copying Tintin's style, then we can be sure to have something that will end up as reasonable, at least. If we just can draw as well as Hergé, which almost no one can, but so that's the real challenge, of course. But comics isn't all about the sort of the central drawings. It's not just about Tintin. It's just or Professor Calculus. It's about the panel borders. It's about the balloon tails. It's about the hand lettering in the balloon. It's about the story. It's about how to be funny, how to be exciting, how to have invoke drama. It's there's so many aspects. So it's not just, everything isn't just useless if your artwork isn't exactly like Hergé. We have to balance everything. We have to be equally good at everything, and only then we will actually get a good quality product. So that is something which I sort of, one of my philosophies, that if you are a real comic book creator like Hergé, who was doing everything himself first, and later on, of course, he used helpers and doing all these complicated machines and moon rockets and what have you. But the idea is that to get a good comic book album, you have to be good at everything. So it's not that you can get away with a lot of nonsense if your drawings are absolutely outstanding. Of course you can. But we are comic book creators for a reason, and the reason is that we have put ourselves in a position where we are doing all the aspects of the comic book production, or at least I am. So if you regard yourself as a comic book creator, then you have many different things to learn. So, and drawing isn't the only thing that we want to do. So, but of course, drawing is very, very important in a comic book. So that has to be nice, of course. All right, so we have done, but I have done the number 4 here, which looks good. I'll just have to rotate it somewhat, and it points. First of all, we have to move it in closer to, so it's almost exactly one sweat drop away from the back of the head, which should be there. Maybe one more, like that, and then the direction it points is slightly above the ear. So maybe we can just have, I think there, maybe one up, but it's something like that. And now I'm zooming out to see all of it, and then I'm doing the same on the original on my left monitor here to check out the sort of the total effect of this. And the angles, are the angles right? Are the distances to the head right? And so on. And what I can see, it's only this one here, that the 11 o'clock one here. I want to, the number 1 here, I want to change the angle just a tiny bit here. That's better. Okay, same scale, 300%. H for hand, I'm dragging it up. And this doesn't look too bad. That one passes, that one passes, that one. But actually this one also, I want the 3 o'clock one. I want to (3 o'clock), and I want to rotate it clockwise a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So note here then that this distance to his head is bigger. This distance here is almost half of it. I actually could go multiply. I could go in here. Okay. Right. Okay, that's done. So now we are at this equal level here, where we have, but now we already have 155 on this video, So I will. So then we can sum it up like this: that we will not have time to complete the tail and the hand and the sweat drops here in this video, but I think we've done the hard work now, really. So the transforming of the red lines here, both in terms of the tail and the sweat and the hand, I think we easily can make this into a sort of like a 1.5 hour video here, because these are pretty good, or at least a 2 hour video. So I think we'll hold with starting the blue kind of work until next in part 9. And before we go, just a quick reminder here: 987 degrees centigrade. It's a science fiction action thriller adventure with Barry Riley, coming up in the future here. Okay, thank you for watching, and see you in the next part. Bye bye.